They've been saying it couldn't be done. A bipartisan agreement over infrastructure. Well, I would respond to their it couldn't be done with, perhaps it shouldn't be done. And we'll see now, because apparently 10 bipartisan group of senators have announced that they've come up with a deal, and we're gonna give you details on it. The first detail is that we're gonna get a statement about it from one of the members of the group, Senator Kyrsten Sinema. So just to give you a bit of an idea about what's likely to be on the bill and what's not, she's involved in the group. So Senator Sinema had this to say: our group comprised of 10 senators, 5 from each party, which by the way, let's just acknowledge that's not even enough to actually get it passed with the filibuster existing if there's only 5 Republicans on board, but we'll return to that. Has worked in good faith, no you didn't, reached a bipartisan agreement on a realistic compromise. There's little I trust less than Kyrsten Sinema's estimation of what's realistic. So anyway, this investment would be fully paid for, would not include tax increases. We're discussing our approach with our respective colleagues and with the White House and blah, 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 blah. But who's in it? So you have Democrats, Manchin, Shaheen, Sinema, Tester, Warren. So that is effectively a group of, give or take the most conservative Democrats in the Senate. And then on the Republican side, you have Bill Cassidy, you have Collins, Murkowski, Portman, and Romney. And they've come up with this framework that's expected to include about $579 billion in new spending as part of an overall package that would cost a little bit less than $1 trillion over 5 years, about $1.2 trillion over 8 years. It's expected to address a narrower range of physical infrastructure projects and to avoid the Democratic push for tax increases. Let's be specific about that. About rolling back some of the tax cuts that happened just a few years ago under Trump. They're not random tax increases that they just came up with. And it's not even fully going back to the level of taxes that we had under President Obama. They will also, and this is something we are gonna return to, suggest indexing the gas tax to inflation as one of the mechanisms for paying for the plan. So, Bridget, I've thrown a lot out there. We don't know how Biden is gonna respond to this, let alone other senators, but what do you think about what you've heard so far?
I guess I just don't know that at this stage in the game, this is what we actually need. I think that I think in this time we need like bold solutions, bold plans, bold action. Frankly, I don't know why we're supposed to all get so excited that something is bipartisan. Even just the statement that you read from Sinema, so many little bells going off. When I hear these words like, realistic compromise and things like that, it just sounds like she may as well be saying, this is a watered down piece of garbage that is gonna go nowhere. And I feel like that's not what we need. We need big, bold, progressive infrastructure. We need big stances. This is not a time to play small, it's a time to play big. And I just can't imagine that this is gonna be actually something that does that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of different ways that I don't like this. I agree. Sinema calling it realistic, well, what does that probably mean? It probably means it doesn't do anything about climate change. It doesn't go nearly far enough. It plays into the months of BS, hey, infrastructure is only a pipe sort of arguments that you had on Fox News that I'm obviously sick of. And I wonder if it could even pass, if it's even intended to pass, because as I said, it doesn't even include enough Republicans in it right now that it would be able to overcome a filibuster. Then you have the question of, would the House actually pass that version? Does Biden even support it? I mean, maybe. Biden has already twice significantly cut his initial compromise, what I consider a compromise price tag of $2.3 trillion. So cutting it all the way down to 974 billion. And look, it's obviously complex. I'm assuming that's like for like in terms of the actual numbers over the same time frame. That's only like, what is that, like $200 billion more than the initial Republican offer? So the Democrats will have come down $1.4 trillion. The Republicans will have gone up $200 billion. So they'll have compromised 1/7 as much as the Democrats when the Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and the House. Does that seem like the way the system should work?
Yeah, like how is that a compromise? That's not how compromises work in my book.
No, not at all. And look, maybe they can get enough Republicans. Mitch McConnell says he's open to it. Of course, he could burp and it would be a lie, so God only knows. But Mitt Romney, like potentially, I'm just so sick of the whole thing. It's right around where Biden said he would expect, $600 billion in new spending above the baseline for it to, potentially be something he could sign on to. Which again, think about the signal that sends to the various groups of Republicans and bipartisan, mostly conservatives they're talking about this. He says he initially wants $2.3 trillion, but then he tells them effectively, you can get by with just $600 billion. You negotiated with the 2.3 trillion. Why are you sending them information that allows them to undercut negotiators who might be pushing for more? And bear in mind the cost issue. It's not just what gets included, and this is gonna be far less than what we'd be talking about. So I don't know, like the $500 billion that's supposed to go over, over a decade to building out the EV charging infrastructure that would allow it to finally reach something like maybe kind of like parity with gas stations and would be necessary for us to fully switch over. I don't know if that's gonna be included in there, but they're getting rid of the tax increases. So for the rich, for corporations, they're getting their money's worth with this negotiating group. But then what are they gonna do to help pay for it? They're gonna index the gas tax to inflation. And why not? Because the gas tax is a far bigger share of your income than it is of some billionaire. They don't drive 1,000 times more than you do. And so that is a regressive tax. And I understand that there are some environmentalists that think that the gas tax should go up to disincentivize buying gas cars and all that. That is an interesting philosophical point about the environment. But it is, especially when coupled with getting rid of tax increases on the wealthy, it is 100% making the bulk of the funding of this regressive in nature. Any thoughts, Bridget?
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. And I just wanna make sure that we lift up this idea that any kind of infrastructure plan that does not have meaningful climate change and does not address climate change in any kind of real way is just falls short, right? And so I hate the idea of continuing to let corporations and wealthy people really just not pay their fair share at a problem that they helped create. And so like, I'm happy that we're having a conversation about infrastructure, but I'm no climate expert, so I don't know the nuances of like what kind of provisions in this bill most climate folks think would be successful or not. But I just think that I want to get away from thinking about infrastructure as like bridges and pipes and really address the sort of meaningful change it could have in our society.
Exactly. Yeah, later on in the show, we're gonna be talking about droughts and the effect that droughts can have on electricity production. So these things are tied together fairly directly. Climate policy needs to be a consideration. And unfortunately, it looks like this bipartisan group is buying into the right-wing framing that they should be entirely separate things. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.